Hey there, Mary Sheila here, and I am processing my garlic from the garden. I have been known in years past to braid my garlic, but I was maybe a little lazy this year. So now it's all dried out, and I'm just taking out the kind of the dirty part of the shell on the outside and cutting off the roots. And I'm going to bring these in after this, but I wanted to just take this as an opportunity to talk about garlic, beloved garlic, and the health benefits of garlic. You've probably heard a lot about the health benefits of garlic, that it's really good for cardiovascular system. Studies have shown that it can reduce blood pressure, can help to lower cholesterol. It's really good for the immune system. I used to have some friends that whenever they were sick, or anyone in the family was feeling sick, they'd make a really garlicky dip. And everybody would eat lots of the garlicky dip to just try to go after whatever it was, because it's really antimicrobial, which is awesome. And it's also a way maybe to keep your distance from people if you have really strong garlic breath, right? Sometimes people react to garlic, and that might be because they have what we call dysbiosis, which is bacteria that's in the wrong place that we're used to having, but it's in the wrong place, and it might be in the small intestine, that would be called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And garlic just happens to be a very high FODMAP food, which means it has a lot of fiber that feeds our microbes. So that's all well and good, especially when it happens in the large intestine. But if you have an overgrowth in the small intestine, and let me explain to you, the small intestine is like 20 feet long, but it is very skinny. So if there's bacteria in there and they're munching on the fiber, and then they're off-gassing their waste products as gas, and all that gas starts to build up in the small intestine, it can be really uncomfortable and cause bloating, and it can even arrest the cells of motility. So it's important to so some people are like, oh, every time I eat garlic, or maybe they don't know why they're eating something. Garlic and onions are both in that family. So when you eat garlic and onions, if you don't feel so hot, you might have a little bit of what we call dysbiosis. It could be SIBO, but just, needing to kind of fix the microbiome. Sometimes people will also have like constipation and things like that, because the bacteria that is in the wrong place can kind of arrest the cells of motility. But garlic is an amazing flavoring agent and herb, and it has such a rich history. And that's what I wanted to tell you a little bit about my story with garlic as well. I can go on and on about all the health benefits, but let me just say, eat your garlic every day if you can. And, because it does have a lot of amazing health benefits. It's easy to Google and just see, wow, it really does have some good benefits. A couple of these are a little soft because we did have some late rains before I pulled my garlic, so I didn't pull it in time, put it that way. So a couple of them are a little soft, and I'll just give them back to the worms in my worm box. But okay, so I wanted to tell you a story. There used to be a guy that lived where I live in Occidental, an older gentleman, and his name is Chester Aaron. And he was many things, but one of the things that he was an author. And Chester lived in Occidental, and he wrote a bunch of books, and he was also a world-renowned garlic grower. So he was an author, a garlic grower. He was in World War II. He had been a radiation tech at a hospital. He'd been a professor at a school in the Bay Area. He was for writing, he was just this very bohemian type of guy that had done a lot of things in his long life. He lived to be, I think, in his high 80s, maybe early 90s. But when he wrote, I'm a part of a book club, and so one of the members of our book club chose to read his book, and it was called Garlic Kisses, and it was a book of short stories about garlic and kind of the connections, very human stories. There was always a thread of garlic, stories of him meeting people who've smuggled garlic in from China, in Chinatown in San Francisco, to meeting people. He was Jewish and he had fought in World War II, meeting Germans and having this very human connection. just all these amazing stories, like heartfelt, teary-eyed stories. And when we had our book club, we invited him to come to our book club meeting. And he was, you know, as I said, he was somewhere in his 80s. He's like, I'm too old to grow garlic anymore. You know, I'm not going to do it. And there were 4 of us that said, well, we'll help you. So we were the garlic girls, and we went over there to his house once a week. We all had little ones, so we'd bring our little ones. We all got together and helped him with his garlic, and he had a ton of varieties. And there's like soft neck garlic, and there's hard neck garlic, there's purple, they're from all over the world. He had all these different varieties. And we'd bring our dogs. He had written many stories too about children and their dogs and border collies. And I had a border collie at the time, Norton. So if you know me, some of you remember Norton, he was the best. Anyway, so we'd go over there and help him every week, and we'd eat garlic at the end of our shift with some dip and gluten-free crackers and tea, and just had a lovely time. And it was wonderful. When I read his book originally, it was when my mom was dying, and I was traveling a lot to go visit her. And it was just like such an emotional book. The stories are so beautiful. If you have a chance to read Garlic Kisses by Chester Aaron, I highly recommend it. So he would, so we'd go over there, and then I gave a copy of that book to my dad, and it took my dad a long time to read it, because then he lost his wife, my mom, and when he finally started to read the book, he called me and he said, oh my God, I'm reading that book, and it's so tender, and it's just exactly what I need. I'm loving that book. And my dad was getting a little older then, and he called me about 3 other times and said, did you know I'm reading that book? So I just said, yeah, that's great, you know. Instead of telling him, you told me yesterday, right? It's better to just be in the moment with people, especially with our elders. So anyway, garlic is such an amazing part of our history, and garlic is also such a wonderful herb and so fun to use. So I encourage you to use garlic. You can never use too much. Enjoy it, and if you can get that book, grab that book. It's such a good book. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.